So we are back. I hope everybody could take a quick break, catch his breath. So we are directly going to continue with the second session. Let me quickly just the presentation. Yeah, so the next session is actually going to be fostering a culture of entrepreneurship in smart manufacturing, a deep dive and practical insight. This is going to be done by Jettify, a company in Italy. It's also going to be further presented by the session chair. So this is going to be Marco. I hope, Marco, you're in the call. He is going to join us online. And yeah, I'm going to directly hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Shema. Hi, everyone. I am Marco Datai. I'm a researcher working at Politecnico di Milano, and I will moderate this second session. The title of the presentation, as Shema said before, is the Fostering a Culture of Intra and Entrepreneurship in Smart Manufacturing, Deep Dive and Practical Insights. The speaker is Saba Oliviero, that is working for the Italian company Jellyfy as a strategic designer. To introduce a little bit Jellyfy, even though Saba will give you more information, Jellyfy is an innovation platform that empowers startups and scale-ups to achieve their full potential by connecting them with the key corporate players. They offer comprehensive innovation advisory services and forge co-investment initiatives across diverse industries. Jellyfy blends future visions, software, and human genius to help businesses flourish as modern digital enterprises, pushing boundaries and driving sustainable growth. So Saba, I will give you the floor right now if you want to start.
Thank you, Marco. I will share my screen if I can. Let's see. Just a second.
If you have technical issues, I can start the presentation from my side.
Okay. How can I share the PDF file? Because I can see I can share a whiteboard and it says slides as a virtual background, but then I can't select my slides.
Do you happen to have the PowerPoint version of it? Because I would have the same problem then with the PDF.
Oh, okay, so I need a PowerPoint. Yes, let me just... Okay.
So if it doesn't work, then just share the PDF document and then it would be fine just to...
Yeah, in a couple of seconds, the PowerPoint will be downloaded and I can try to share it.
Great. Then I would just use the time and tell everybody again about the possibility to ask questions. So if you have some sort of questions, some sort of remarks for the presentation, then please do so. There's the option in Zoom. And yeah, we would be happy if you could contribute and also give us some of your insights. Thank you. Your screen is loading, so we are going to give it actually that.
It's opening, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Okay, great. So nice to meet you. I am Saba Oliviero from Jellyfy. I'm a strategic designer, and my team in Jellyfy works in particular in business design and validation projects in user experience and the study of user in general in depth, and in what the strategic design topics focus on is usually the first part of the consultancy projects that in general we follow with our colleagues in Jellyfy. So it focuses a lot on the analysis of the problem and the context where the projects take place, and also, as I was saying, the study of the user. And another aspect is the prototyping and prototyping activities. So the first drafting of the business ideas to make it concrete, and then test it with the final users in order to understand the actual value for the user. Especially about prototyping and prototyping, we will see later on in the presentation some tips and information. So Jellyfy, as Marco already introduced, is an innovation platform, and it works basically with startups, corporates, and investors in order to create a whole and complete ecosystem, facilitating the interaction between these three different actors. So about startups, we always try to find ways to build the best and most innovative technologies in order to create values for the users. With corporate, we usually offer strategy and business design projects and consultancy, as I was talking about before. And also we co-invest in initiatives and such as accelerators to make the most of startups' ideas and innovation. So our main topic is to act as a facilitator between these three different realities, and to make a whole innovation ecosystem. Our approach, I think it is useful and interesting to deep dive a bit on our approach for this session, because it is a quite innovative mix between strategy and consulting, and technology and creativity. So the three main phases that we follow in our projects are explore, design, and make. In the explore phase, that is also as I was explaining at the beginning, the phase where my team works more, and it is more interesting for strategic design, is the first phase where we understand the context and we analyze deeply the pains and needs of the users. So our main focus is to understand deeply the problem that we are working on before starting designing the solution. Then in the second phase, that is the design phase, we apply the principles of design thinking and human-centered design in order to create the solutions that can bring value for the user. In this stage, we also create and use prototypes and test our ideas in an iterative way in order to understand if our solution give the correct and valuable answer to the user. And at the end, another peculiar aspect of Jellyfy is that we also have a development part with software developers, where usually, especially with the software solution, we can also we can also work on the make phase, that is the realization of the final outputs of the projects. So one interesting aspect of these Jellyfy methodologies that we can follow from the start to the end of the project, all the different phases. But I'm proud to say that the most important phase from my perspective, that is the explore one, is really important also in our methodology. So the topic of today is entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. It is an important focus also in Jellyfy. And the first thing that I want to say about this topic is that the main aspects that are that in intrapreneur and entrepreneur have in common basically are the methodology, the mindset, and the tools. What does it mean? The methodology in general is the idea that to build a new business idea, it is needed to follow a set of steps that can help frame the problem and understand the context and the users, and then bring to life the idea and implement it. Then there is the mindset that is common between these two different approaches of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, because the same mindset of wanting to find a real problem and to give value to the user is needed both in the entrepreneurship inside companies and entrepreneurship outside the companies. And then a set of tools that can be slightly different depending not only on the difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, but also specific for each different project and each different industry, but can also be there can be a common set of tools that are the basis to an entrepreneurial approach. So first of all, I want to present you the digital entrepreneurship fast track. That is the methodology that Jellyfy uses with companies to bring the entrepreneurship mindset in different kind of projects. It is a methodology that is based on a set of tools as the ones that I was talking in the previous slide, and they are interesting and useful both for entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship projects. So I think it is interesting to see how we work in these kind of projects. So the idea at the basis of our digital entrepreneurship fast track is that we have 6 or 7 steps. 6 steps in the sense that we divided the activity of building a business in these 6 phases, where you start with understanding the context, then you define the value proposition, you design the business model in a sustainable way as possible. You try to concretize, to make the idea concrete, to prototype it and to validate with the users. Then if you need to pivot and to change your ideas, you can iterate the process of the value proposition refinement each time you have a valuable feedback from the user. And then there is a feasibility part where you try to understand the technical and economical feasibility of your idea. And then there is the design of the pitch and the final explanation of the idea in trying to be as clear and passionate as possible in the pitching your ideas to investors. So usually with companies, we have these 6 steps that are 6 different workshops in person where we work with 1 or more groups that develop their own business idea. And then we have a final pitch day where they pitch their ideas to the company. About methodology, usually the first step about understanding the context is related to trend observation, where and it is a first step where we try to look outside at the outside world and the context, the reference context of the topic that we want to deep dive. We map the competitors, so we try to have a look at the competitive scenario, identifying current solutions, substitutes, competitors, and new entrants. Then when working with companies, it is also important to map both the external and also the internal context, identifying resources and constraints. And then in general, mapping the business landscapes, understanding political, economical, social, technological, and environmental, and also legal constraints, trends, and topics that we need to take into account developing an idea. In this slide and also in each of the next steps, you will also see some of the tools, so the specific canvases that we use with the groups to work on the business idea. It is useful, as I was saying, to have this kind of fixed tools that are useful to help the group think, collaborate in a collaborative way, and they also help us to have these fixed steps where you know that if you follow these steps and you study all the topics that you need, you can build the idea in pieces after pieces in order to have a logic sequence of different steps to go from the problem to your solution without jumping to your conclusions too early. So the second step is then define the value proposition. So here it is, in my opinion, the most important step, that is the problem framing step, where you understand what is the real problem that you are going to solve for the user. You take into account the voice of the customer, so you try to empathize with the final users of your idea. And some of the tools here are proto-personas, interviews, and all the tools that help us understand the context and the problem that we want to solve. So also the study of all the stakeholders that can be relevant in our context, and then the value proposition design with the value proposition canvas, that is the main tool used for this exercise, where we start from users' jobs, pains, and gains in order to understand how to help him or her achieve, solve their problem and achieve what can be gain creators for them. Then there is a designing part of the business model. In this workshop, we usually try to include in our solution digital business models, but it is not always necessary to have a digital solution. It depends on what is the specific problem that we are basing our idea on. And one aspect that is always taken into account is to be as circular as possible and as sustainable as possible, both in an environmental and a social way. So here with the business model canvas, usually we try to understand how our value proposition can bring value to the user and also can be sustainable economically. Then there is a validation step, and it is, I think, an interesting step for especially for companies that usually are not. Sometimes they are not used to work with this kind of methodologies. Basically, it is the build, test, learn methodology where you validate your hypothesis about both needs and solutions. So you start from your assumption and you try to prototype the idea, making it concrete using less resources and time as possible. In particular, prototype compared to prototype is about the very early stage and first idea. It is a draft of the idea, and it is useful to test your solution in an earlier stage as possible, in order to understand if the problem and the need that you are working on are the correct ones, and if your idea of solution is really valuable for the user, and then to change it in an iterative way as many times as it is needed in order to make it valuable for the user. So the idea here is to try to build the first draft and version of the solution, go to the user, so go outside your organization or your company and try to collect feedback and analyze them in order to iterate and pivot in the best way possible. So here, what we try to do usually is to try to build maybe an interface if it is a digital solution, or other kinds of first version of the product, and try to map all the steps of the user journey in order to find critical points, issues, and topics that we can help us to make the solution the best possible. Then there is the feasibility step, where we try to create a business planning for the company over 5 years, so for the new business. And here we also try to understand the technical, legal, operational feasibility of the idea. So all the technical and economical aspects to make it more concrete and to understand how to implement it. Then the final step is to build a pitch, and usually also inside companies we try to make them use the pitch based on the venture capital industry. That is the Sequoia pitch. That is common for startups, less common maybe inside companies, but is always useful because it's a comprehensive. It gives a comprehensive idea of the solution, starting from the problem and the users, and then showing all the features and the business model aspects. And it also helps the team to build the storytelling around the idea, sometimes also using data visualization and visual representation in order to make the audience understand the value of the idea and present it inside the company, outside the company, or to investors. Here we have just another tool, the pitch canvas, where you try to understand all the steps that you need to focus on during the pitch explanation. So basically, this Jellyfy methodology that we have seen in these slides is based on three or four, sorry for the typos, four different sets of methodology that come from the world of design thinking and lean startup. So the first methodology that we always take into account is the one from Steve Blank, explained here in the 4 steps to the epiphany, where the main topic is to find a fit between the problem and the solution. So understand if the customers and the users in general will be satisfied and helped by your solution, and also at the same time a fit between the product and the market. So will customer be willing to pay for the solution? Will the solution be interesting for the market? Then the second methodology is obviously the design thinking methodology. This approach is always important because it starts from the problem, and it has an iterative approach where you can, in more than one iteration, start from a discovery and then define and develop the solution with always with a specific attention to the user and to finding the right problems to solve. Then we have the lean startup approach that is also important for this kind of projects and methodology. And it has a particular attention to the build, measure, learn cycle that we saw in the testing phase. That as the design thinking methodology, it's also iterative and help us understand if our solution needs to be changed in some aspects as early as possible, and then also iteratively through the whole process of development. And then the last approach is the prototyping one. As I was mentioning before, prototype is an earlier step than prototype, and it helps us when building the solution. It helps us to understand what is the right solution that we need to test before building it in an expensive and finalized version. So the main topic here is what is the difference of this approach with companies and with in entrepreneurship projects and with entrepreneurship projects. Basically, for entrepreneurship projects, so inside companies, as I was saying, we usually have these 6 steps as workshops that we where we work with one or more groups that develop each one their own idea. They usually have a common challenge that they need to answer. It is also useful as training. So usually these projects are seen both as training in the sense that the groups acquire the methodology and tools, and also as a development of a real project that can bring value to the company and can be developed. So how can people inside a company become entrepreneurs? The main topics are to be focused on customer centricity, to experiment and to be able to pivot, to be open to innovation and change, and to learn to cooperate. So all the steps that we've seen so far are useful and important also inside companies in order to bring a new mindset to the company people. So as I was mentioning, it's a matter of mindset process because you follow a set of steps and tools so that you can acquire the methodology. Two examples of these DIFT inside the companies. In last year, we had with a company we had a challenge related to digital twin. The challenge was to understand how the digital model of the technical, functional, and operational information of the company, and in general, the digitalization of the assets of the company could improve the functioning of all the company's solution, how the physical assets management could be updated with this digital model, how the digital model could help to make more informed decision and to maybe build also new innovative assets. So starting from this challenge and topic of the digital twin, we followed the 6 steps that we've seen before, and the groups worked on a solution starting from the study of the context inside and outside the company, so the assets of the company and the constraints, the competitive landscape, then the study the users that in that case were internal to the company. They developed a value proposition and a solution that they tested with the final internal users with interviews. Then they built a prototype of the solution. It was a digital solution, so they built an interface and they went again to the users to test the solution and to understand if it was valuable. Another example from this year was the same approach, but with the topic of generative AI. So the challenge this time was a bit different because it was also training course that was integrated with another training session related to Copilot. So the groups started with these training sessions about Copilot, and then that were organized by the company. And then with our DIFT program, we faced the challenge of generative AI in general, and we found some specific solutions to different problems that the groups focused on, one decided to focus on. Also in this case, we started from problem framing, then developed a solution, and through interviews we tested our value proposition, and then we decided how to implement the solution. In particular, one constraint from the company was to implement it as an MVP without any software development as a first MVP, and then we also had developed a more structured roadmap to implement all the features that we had in mind in the next years. Another project that I want to show you to understand the similarities and differences when it comes to entrepreneurship is a project that Jellyfy is carrying on with the EIT manufacturing, and it is an entrepreneurship program for their doctoral school. So we are working with the PhD students, and the aim here is to launch their own business in order to apply their PhD research to real-world topics. So there are 2 years, 10 students from the first year and 9 from the second year, from 6 different universities in Europe, and the aim is to develop their business idea related to the manufacturing industry in order to pitch it to investors. This program is divided into different activities. One is the actual entrepreneurship program where we have 15 webinars for each year, where we take a look at all the topics that we've seen in the 6 steps, but more in detail, so that we have a more workshop to work on each topic. And then we have one mentoring session per month with each student to help them develop their ideas. So here you see the methodology that we've seen in the 6 different steps, that is divided into first year and second year, so that the program can focus on the first year in understanding the context and defining the value proposition, and the second year, after understanding the business model and validate the idea, the students can prepare for launch and design the pitch. Then we also have 3 moments in person where we focus on specific topics. So we had a spring school of 1 week in April where we focused on the technology roadmap. So we had the first business challenge to understand the technological challenges of a project. Then we will have the summer school next week and the week later, where we, with the first year only, we will focus on the design research. So we will have these 2 weeks to deep dive on the business research part of the project, analyzing competitors and user needs. And then, yeah, also here I put the calendars just to give you an idea of the structure of these boot camps, where we have also academic lecture, company visits, etc. And this boot camp will be, as I was mentioning, focusing on the market analysis. And then we will have a winter school in December, where we will focus also with the second year on IPR issues and aspects, and on the storytelling and building of the pitch deck in order to get ready for the final pitch with investors. Okay, I hope it was interesting for you, and if you have any questions related to these topics, I'm available to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Saba, for your nice presentation. Do we have any question in the chat? No question? Okay, if you don't mind, I have a couple of questions. So the first question is related to what are the main differences between the entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial approaches?
Yes, so as from what I've seen with the project that I've carried on with Jellyfy and that we've seen in this presentation, usually with an entrepreneurial approach, people focus more on the technological aspects, especially in this case where we talk about PhD students. They have a great strong focus on the technical side of the idea, whereas with entrepreneurship projects inside companies, they try to build an idea, a solution that can be relevant for the market, that can be sold outside the company, or can be can help the company to save money, time, resources. These 2 aspects are both important in the developing of a business idea. So what we try to teach to these to different sets of groups is for the entrepreneurs, we try to make them understand that the idea is not the only thing that counts. So it doesn't. If you have a strong idea, you also need to make it feasible for the market and interesting for the market. And to entrepreneurs inside companies, we try to teach them that it is important to have an answer from the market, but you also need to provide value to the user that can be internal or external, but it is important to solve a real problem and not only focusing on saving resources.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, what is the most challenging step in the development of a business idea?
So it depends on the project, in the sense that in different projects you can have challenges in all the 6 steps that we've seen together. But usually the main challenge is to be able to pivot and to change and modify the idea after you validate it and after you have feedbacks from the users. But it actually is the most important step, maybe one of the most important steps, because it is important to focus always on the problem before the solution. So it is always important to understand if we go in the right direction and doing it together with the users. So for example, in the one project that we are carrying on this year in Jellyfy, one group had this situation where they developed the entire idea, they didn't implement it, but they already had developed the entire idea. They went to the users to make interviews, and they discovered that their solution didn't have a fit with the users, so they needed to change the type of users. But it was a success at the end, because they managed to find which were the exact precise user inside the company that needed that kind of solution and that had that problem that they mapped at the beginning. So right now they are developing their idea, but they needed to pivot at a quite advanced stage of their business idea. The development, let's say. So it's always important to test with the users the ideas in order to understand how to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there some questions in the chat?
We have 2 open questions yet. One from the conference here. I would give over to Ivan. Yuri, I'm so sorry.
Am I online? Sabah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
Allow me to ask a little bit provocative question about the intellectual property rights you have mentioned in your presentation. So why does Jellyfy is doing that, helping external parties, like in this PhD school? Do you assume ownership of the solutions proposed by participants of your programs and the developed innovations?
In that case, we are collaborating with the IT manufacturing and universities that are organizing the program. Yes, the actual ideas will be the property of the ideas is to the students. So each student will have the intellectual property of their idea, and we also, as I was mentioning in the winter school bootcamp, we will have an expert talking about IPR in order to make the students aware of all the risks and all the steps that they need to take in order to develop their business idea with the right intellectual property steps that they need to take. I don't know if this answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. That's also an important expertise for us to adopt. Thank you.
Yes.
So then we have one more open question in the chat before we close the session. So you was talking about design thinking that is used by organizations. Can you further adapt what aspects can design thinking directly be helpful for in the organization?
Sorry, can directly? I didn't hear.
So you mentioned that the design thinking is an organization. So for what or which aspects is it really helpful in an organization?
Oh, yeah. Yes, especially in organization, the mindset is important. I think from what I see in our projects inside organization, the teams are not always work with this elastic and iterative and concrete approach. So they often tell us that usually inside the companies you need several months to implement a solution, and you have lots of different steps that you need to take, lots of constraints, and these constraints usually are helpful one and necessary ones, but not always. Sometimes they are just steps that are fixed inside the companies, but maybe not so necessary to implement some of the solution that can be more agile. So I think that this approach of testing quickly, have feedbacks quickly, and then only where you know that the solution is the right one, go to the implementation phase is a great and innovative approach for companies.
Great. I think this answers the question. Then thank you very much for your presentation and also for the practical insight, especially for the project with the digital twin. I think this was really interesting, and yeah, thank you very much. And then I will close your session.